and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I'll be sharing a flip video of the March 2022 Spellbinders club kits. So I won't be working with all of the club kit releases, but I do have a few of them, and so here's a quick walkthrough of the cards that I'll be making in this video. So if you're new to my flip videos, I always make at least one flat, one layered, one interactive, and one pop-up card. And in this video, I'll actually be making two interactive cards, and the club kits I'll be working with are the clear Stampin' Die of the month, the small die of the month, the large die of the month, and the APG die of the month. So if you're interested in any one particular card and how to make it, then I'll timestamp this video. So if you hover over the timeline of the video, you'll be able to skip ahead to just that specific card. Starting off with my flat card, I've already inked up my card base. So this is one of the Spellbinders card bases that come in their card kits, and I've already colored and die cut out a lot of the stamped images that come in the stamp of the month. And the coordinating dies are fantastic because they do also die cut out the sentiments, and you'll see some of those sentiments throughout the various cards that I'm making. And here I'm cutting slits into the hat of my gnome so that I can actually tuck the ears into the hat. I think that just gives it a little bit of a more realistic look that the ears are sort of popping up through the hat. And it's totally optional though, because I think you could just as easily maybe just glue the ears flat to the hat, and then maybe just adding some shadowing under the ears would be enough to give that illusion that it's coming up through the hat. I do add some of that shadowing, so the coloring I did with my alcohol markers, I think I was trying out the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend brush markers that I recently got because it went on like super warehouse clearance sale from Crafter's Companion. But just to add that little shadowing under the ears, I used one of my color pencils that I thought matched the shadow color of the hat perfectly. And so I'll just kind of build up my scene here. So I define flat cards as not strictly one layer cards in the sense of you only have your card base essentially. I define my flat cards as being your card base plus at most one layer of cardstock. So you don't have a lot of the mats and layers, no foam or super dimensional embellishments like gems and things like that. So I think by inking up my card base directly, that saves me, one layer, and all of these die cuts I'll be adhering down just without any foam at all. So one of the things that I like doing with the clouds, because you do get two cloud shapes, is you can actually hang them off the edge like I did there, and the other half that I cut off, I'm gonna save that and actually just use it on another card. So it's a nice way to sort of stretch your cloud shape. So here I'm working with the large die of the month, and I have taken the 3 flower dies and die cut them out of foam. And with this largest one, I actually did not push out the center portion where it would normally drop out. I actually left that in the foam, and what that results with is this nice kind of white ring that you get. And these dies are gorgeous when you layer up the actual die cuts. But I thought that instead of layering up die cuts, how would this look if I used it as a layered stamp? So with the die cut that would normally go on the bottommost layer, I'm stamping with my lightest color. And I wasn't necessarily going for a perfect stamping, but you can see sort of in the middle there is one stamp that is rather perfect. So you can get perfect, clear impressions by creating your own stamps just by die cutting out of your fun foam. And my foam happens to already have adhesive on the back, so that's why I tore up just like a little bit, because I don't want it to leave a lot of sticky residue on my acrylic block. I just want enough of that adhesive to stick so that I can stamp. And one thing to note, again, I didn't really care too much, but there is actually a correct orientation for layering these up. The petals aren't 100% identical, and so with the stamping, I did notice that, but I didn't really care. If it was a little bit off, I feel like that added to the look of this, and so that didn't bother me too much. But when I use this as die cuts, I do rotate it around so that I can find that perfect fit. This last layer, it's sort of the most delicate, so you do have to be a little bit careful, especially with thin, delicate pieces of foam like this, to try not to misshapen it too much when you put it on your block or when you're peeling off the paper liner to expose the adhesive, because it can get a little bit misshapen. But like I said, I wasn't really too concerned about that because I didn't care too much about lining this up perfectly. But you can see once I add this third color how gorgeous this sort of layered stamping is. I really love this flower shape, and I love how it builds up the different layers, and I don't think I have any other, I'll have to check my stash, maybe I do, but I don't think I have any of Spellbinders' other kaleidoscope stamps, but I'd be curious to try this technique on some of their other ones too, because I just think it's really, really pretty, and it's so easy, because you can actually reuse these stamps, these foam stamps, probably a couple times before maybe the adhesive on the back wears off, or before maybe they get too distorted by pulling them on and off your block. But it's easy enough to die cut more foam and get new stamps. So I love how this turned out. I didn't know what to expect when I started, but I love the result. So this could easily have been a flat card as well, but I'm gonna add some mats and layers, and actually going to use some of the leftover sentiments that I foiled last month using the Glimmer of the Month from February. And so I've just taken some of, I think this is one of the nested shape dies from Spellbinders for the A2 size cards, and so I'll just pick a couple of those rectangles to die cut my sentiment and a nice matte layer. And then I decided that I want a matte layer around the panel I just created as well. And I happen to have a nice purple cardstock that matches this ink color pretty well. So I'm gonna layer this up, and it's a pretty simple, easy card to make, but I think those flowers are just so pretty that it does make it quite striking and effective as a card. So I'm going to just adhere all of these layers down, and that's going to be pretty much my card complete. I wasn't sure where to put this sentiment. I thought for a second I would push it towards the bottom, but I just kept it at the top. Not quite centered. I don't like to center it completely in the middle of the card, so it's centered left to right, but it's slightly closer to the top. So that finishes up this card. Here's a final quick look at it. I love how this turned out. I'm still a little bit surprised by the end result. So here is the small die of the month, and the clouds that I put on my first card, they came from this die set, not from the clear Stampin' Die of the month. So you'll see I kind of use these products sort of interchangeably throughout my cards. I'm not strictly trying to keep to one club kit for each card, so you'll see a little bit of a mix and match. But this branch here is actually from the Hang With Me card kit. It's from, I think, 2019, so a fairly old one. But I wanted to use this swing, but I didn't want it to swing left to right because that doesn't seem like that's how a swing would normally move. So I wanted to actually hang the swing off of a tree branch, and the Hang With Me card kit has this really nice long tree branch that you can that stretches across a USA 2 size card really well. And I'm just using Scotch tape right now to sort of test my mechanism before I do anything that's too permanent. So I decided to use invisible thread, so I know it's going to be really hard to see what I'm doing here. But I put down a little bit of liquid adhesive on the back of my swing, the lines for the swing, and I'm going to put some just plain Scotch tape and wrap it around the die cut string, and that way the liquid adhesive is going to eventually dry and be nice and permanent, but the Scotch tape will help to kind of hold that in place while it's drying, especially since I want to kind of keep on making progress. I didn't want to wait for this to dry completely. That's just me being impatient. But I think the Scotch tape just helps to hold it there in place. And what I'm going to do is wrap that invisible thread around my tree branch. So that should hopefully give it a little bit more stability. And again, combination of liquid adhesive on the back and small stretch of Scotch tape across that to hold it in place. And I did put some Scotch tape across the front of the invisible thread as well. That's just to anchor that down so that it doesn't sort of flop around too much. It'll actually stay sort of attached at that point. And so here I'm just going to check where I want this last piece of invisible thread to land, and I'm going to attach it the same way. So small dot of liquid adhesive and some Scotch tape to help hold it in place. Now I know the Scotch tape looks terrible, even though it's called, invisible tape. Of course you can still see it, so I'll be covering all of that up with some leaves and some flowers. But to attach this to my card, I am going to just use some of my low profile foam and just put it on the parts of the branch that will actually make contact with the card base, because part of this branch will actually span and go across the oval aperture that I've already die cut into my card base. And I'm gonna go ahead and attach my little bunny to to the swing too, and that way I have this as a complete unit that I can add to my card, and I figured it would be easier to put my bunny on now rather than wait later. And I decided, oh, those strings were so thin that I would add a second layer to the back just to strengthen it a little bit more. It helps to kind of hold down the bunny to the string as well, because he's only attached at a couple of points. So I think that extra sort of layer of the string should help a little bit. And then I also put a second layer of my branch too. So that completely covers the Scotch tape on the branch, and I still have a little bit of Scotch tape on the lines of the swing. It's hard to maybe see that on camera, but it's very visible on in real life. So here's where I'll just try to position these leaves, which also came from the Hang With Me card kit. And I do want to cover the top of the oval aperture to really frame this complete oval, so that the top doesn't look like there's that gap there. So I do want to cover that up too, and I think that just makes for a nicer frame to centralize your focus towards the bunny. And then I'm going to use the flowers, which also came in the same card kit, just to add a little bit more interest to the trees. And there's still on the left side of the swing a little bit of Scotch tape showing, so I'm going to attach this flower to the leaves. I'm not attaching anything to the swing element at all, so that that's free to move back and forth. But it's okay to have something in front of the swing. That'll just, inhibit a little bit of the swinging motion, but it's still going to swing backwards quite a bit. So here I was trying to do that final preview that I often do, and I noticed that even though this is a tent fold, it's having this tendency to kind of do the giraffe legs where it just sort of spreads open and starts to fall. So what I'm going to do is actually just create this little easel that will help it to stand up. So this is just a piece of cardstock that's 4 1/4 wide by 3 inches tall. And along the 3-inch edge, I scored at 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2.5 inch. The 2 1/2 inch sections on both ends will be glue tabs. You can see me adhering it now. So you're gonna have a 2 mountain folds and 1 valley fold, and the valley fold is going to be on the inside. So here's a better look at that swinging mechanism from a different angle. So you can see how like adorable it is. It still moves very freely, even with some of the leaves and the flower blocking it from the front. But that easel just really helps it stand up and not want to continue to slide down. Okay, so then this is the first of 2 interactive cards, and this one I'll be using the APG Die of the Month. This is a large die set. I haven't mentioned, but I do have sort of an unboxing where I show each of the club kits that I'm working with this month. And so if you want to check that out, let me leave a link to it in the upper right hand corner so that you can see exactly what all comes in each of these club kits in case you are not yet a subscriber. But this die set, the largest die in this set is larger than a 5x7. I mean, I think it'll go right to the edge of a 5x7. I remember measuring it in my unboxing. But since I tend to make smaller cards, I thought, well, let me just use some of the inner elements, because you can see how nested these frames are. And so I've die cut out of black and gold, a lot of these layers, but here what I'm doing, I made a little hinge, so it's just about an inch or so, whatever the width of that straight section is on this die cut, and it's I think it's 3/4 of an inch wide, and I scored at 3/8 of an inch so that I would have a 3/8 inch glue tab that I can use as a hinge to create this sort of peekaboo door. And I forgot when I glued that in. It's a good thing I was using liquid adhesive, and it hadn't yet dried, but I prepared this little tab just using that small oval die cut that comes in this set, and I just heat embossed the word lift onto there so that the recipient knows that they can lift this up to actually get the sentiment. And this glimmered sentiment is actually I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. I don't know the name of the set, but I just recently purchased it, and it's because I love this font so much. And I also picked up, I think it's the bold alphabet die set as well, because it has a lot of that same font as the happy portion of Happy Birthday. So I'm gonna just continue to add these layers here. And here what I've done is I did die cut out of black and out of gold, and the gold die cut, the pieces that fell out of that one, I inlaid back into the black layer. And so I still have that gold frame, which I'll use on a separate card, but anytime I die cut out of specialty paper, I like to keep the pieces that drop out and just inlay that back into a plain frame. And that way I sort of use all of my specialty paper, none of it goes to waste, and I sort of get a little bit of a 2-for-1. Okay, so then this is my next card, and this will be my pop-up card. And I just have some pattern papers here that I cut from or using one of the Spellbinders A2. It's not their new precision nestable. I think it was their A2 basics that came out a long time ago. And the banner flag, I think I got that in one of the mystery bags over Black Friday, or sometime thereabouts. It's a Fun Stamper's Journey. Oh no, it wasn't a mystery bag. I think it was just on super clearance. I got it for like under $5, I'm pretty sure. And the Happy Easter is again one of the sentiments from the clear stamp and die of the month, and the carrots came from there as well. So I'm just gonna add some of the carrots. I like to keep the front of my pop-up cards pretty underwhelming. It's still pretty, but I do like to keep it sort of simple, so that when you open it up, it's you get a little bit more of a surprise. But also, if you do plan to sort of display the card and leave it open, then you're not kind of sacrificing something really unique or gorgeous on the front of the card. So again, I'm using another an older set. This is one of the dies of the months from, I'm not sure how long ago, but if it's still available, I'll definitely link to it in the description box below. But it does have all of the pieces for you to create this sort of like little flower box pop-up with this cute little I think of it as a rug, but I guess it's not really a rug, but you could actually use it as a little rug and create a scene from it. But that's what those pieces will be, what actually attaches to your card. So I'm just lining this up so that where the flower box folds inward, that's sort of hitting the fold line of my card, and then I use some liquid adhesive to attach it to my card base. And again, I stamped and colored a ton of the images from the clear stamp of the month, and then die cut them all before sitting down to make any of my cards. And, you know, not knowing what cards I was planning to make either. But that way I would have a lot of elements to play with. And I'm going to attach this little gnome with a clear strip of acetate. This is my thicker, more heavy duty acetate, so it's stronger and it will stand straight. And then I'm going to just continue to kind of adorn this little box with some extra elements here, like the Easter eggs and this flower. And one thing that I always forget is to check whether or not anytime you add something, if it pokes out of your card when you close the card down flat. So that's why I had to pull this gnome up so many times, because I had to keep on pushing him down in order for his hat to not stick out of the card when it's closed. And so it's a good thing that I did squiggle on some liquid adhesive, even though I did use some red line tape as well. But that liquid adhesive really saved me because it hadn't dried completely yet, and I was able to pull it up without ripping anything at all, really. And then I thought I wanted to add a little bit more to my scene, so I pulled out one of the bunnies that I created. And this bunny is I made all of my bunnies armless to start. And then just depending on how I wanted to use the bunny, I would add the appropriate arms. So that way, if it needed to hold something, then I could use the arm that has the little slit and looks like it's curved, like it's holding something. And if it was just kind of free wheeling or whatever, then I could use the other arm option. Okay, so here's a final recap of the 5 cards that I made using some of the Spellbinders Club Kits of the Month for March. And I still really love, that might be my favorite card, the layered card using the large die of the month. Although there are no die cuts from that club kit on that card. Because I've used them as stamps. And then this actually might be, so it's between this card and the layered card, which is my favorite out of this set, because I really love the swinging mechanism of this particular card. And then here is my final card, my pop-up card. Really love how that turned out. The bunny does need to be propped up a little bit once you open him, but it's again attached with some of that heavy acetate. So once you prop him up, he'll stay up. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video and the cards that I made. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I post them, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day. Bye.